Hi everyone, this is Lauren coming at you from the Break Zone with another deck tech video. This one going over the, I guess you could say, Final Fantasy II deck that came out of Opus 6. So the name of this deck is FFTCG by Devin Welzbacher that took the second place at the Indianapolis Crystal Cup. So it was featured on the Square Enix Presents stream. If you haven't checked it out, it's over on YouTube. And it's a very interesting deck. It's powered by, well, the Sid 2 backup that was very interesting. And also, it's a 4-color deck, if you could believe it. And it actually runs quite smoothly. So just to show it to you, there are 0 monsters. Okay, so we're going to start off with Leon. So normally you think of Leon as like, well, it's going to be tough to play that card because it's going to go straight to your opponent. But since you're playing so many Final Fantasy II characters, we're talking about, well, there's Guy, Scott, Firion, Leila, the Emperor, and you also count characters, so that's also including backups, keep that in mind. So we've got Sid 2, Minwu, and Maria as well. So there's definitely a lot of ways to get around it. What I've noticed is playing, let's say, use a green backup, wind backup to play Leon, and then after that using a different backup to go ahead and play, well, let's say Minwu or Maria, for example, or even Sid 2 is going to get it right back to your side, and you're going to have an 8,000 power backup for just 1 TP. Sign me up for that. Alright, next up we've got key powerhouse of this deck, which is Guy at 7,000 power brave. You think, well, he's not that big, but he does have a cool break effect. I mean, if he breaks all your forwards activate, that's cool. Keep in mind that for each category 2 characters other than Guy you control, he gains plus 1,000 power. So we've got a lot of them. As I mentioned earlier, we've got Leon, Scott, Firion, Leila, the Emperor, Sid 2, Minwu, and Maria. Keep in mind that Maria actually gives him plus 1,000 power from Guy's effect, as well as plus 1,000 power from her own effect. So the combination of Maria plus Guy is a 9,000 power forward for 3 CP. Alright, next up we've got Scott, who comes in pretty handy later down in the mid to late game. Can become quite large. You don't have a Hilda or a Scott in this game, so don't worry too much about giving him Brave, but 3 CP back forward that can get pretty large is always a pretty good deal. Alright, next up we've got the Leila Viking package. Again, if you haven't noticed it, that's a bit of a trend. It's getting quite popular, and rightfully so, being able to kind of stall out the faster aggro decks. We're talking about Scions and Turbo Discard. Viking does a pretty good job in combination with Leila to slow them down long enough for you to set your bigger forwards. Alright, next up we've got Vivi as a 1-of. So that's a little bit of off if you think about it. I mean, oh yeah, Vivi can be pretty good if your opponent's trying to play the value game, keep cards in their hand, sculpt out their turns, maybe put out a smaller forward in order to stop your Leila and your Vikings. Vivi has a chance to take him out. Also, as a 3 CP, you're able to use it with Phoenix, and that's going to be a 12,000 power, 12,000 damage that you're going to be dealing. At least, I mean, if they have 11,000, 12,000 damage, 4,000 from Vivi if they have 0 cards in hand, another 8,000 from Phoenix, and if they have more cards in hand, it goes even higher. Alright, next up we've got the Ishtola from plus 5, still a force to be reckoned with. Reason being is your board can get quite large with this deck. You kind of want to build things out. We're talking about Leon, Guy, and Firion, and once you have 2 to 3 forwards, you start worrying about your opponent maybe playing Shantotto, and Ishtola is going to be able to keep you guys safe. And if they play that Shantotto and you're able to cancel it out with by sacrificing your Ishtola, by putting it in the break zone in order to cancel the effect of an auto ability, which Shantotto is an auto ability, you'll be able to save all your forwards and perhaps swing in for the win. Next up we've got Firion. So Firion in combination with all those Final Fantasy II characters that you have usually comes in as a 2 CP 8,000 power forward, which is really big. if your opponent's getting fairly aggressive on you and has 3 forwards, it's gonna Firion's gonna be a 9,000 power forward with haste. And if you break a backup, which you don't mind too much, you have 20 backups, and you might get quite a few early on, and maybe a few evokers out with your Sid. You can go ahead and break him if you want, and that way you'll be able to get First Strike and Brave on Firion, whether you want to attack with him with Brave or defend with him with First Strike. That's going to be your choice, and well, that's going to be pretty good. I mean, that's a lot of efficiency if you build your deck around it. And with Guy and Firion in this deck, as well as all those category 2 characters, it's going to be good. I mean, Firion definitely needs them to be rebel forwards. So I don't think Scott's a rebel. He's not. He's a prince. But Leon and Guy are definitely rebels. So there you go. Oh, and keep in mind, Leila is also not a rebel. She's a pirate. Okay. Oh, well, she's the next card anyway, so let's talk about Leila, part of that engine with Leila and Vikings. You don't quite have a way to, you don't use Braun in this deck to search her out, but you do have 3 copies of Thordan, Thordan VII, if your opponent is attacking into you, or if you want to play it out. And after that, Firion's going to be able to break your Thordan anyway. Next up, we've got 1 copy of Shadowlord. If you're playing against that Turbo Ice deck that nobody really likes to play against, Shadowlord can be pretty darn effective against them. They're going to go ahead and play maybe a Squall, a combination of Thaumaturges, and maybe an Argot, and Shadowlord is going to be able to break all those forwards of 2 or less. So it's not only 2 cost, similar to Golbaz in Opus 1. This is 2 or less, it's going to break all of them. And his secondary effect of being able to deal 2,000 damage to a forward opponent controls if one of their forward goes to the break zone. Keep in mind that's only when an opposing forward goes to the break zone, not your own. But all forwards of cost 2 or less on both sides of the field will break when Shadowlord enters the field. Next up, we've got Opus 6 Zidane. Pretty darn good card. I mean, in combination with Maria, can really put your opponent in a bit of a bind. So if you put a Zidane out early or even mid to late game, it is able to force your opponent to play their forwards, because as soon as you declare an attack with Zidane, you'll be able to rip a forward out of their hand. So either they start pitching forwards through the break zone so that you don't get to pick them out of their hand, or they're going to start playing out their forwards and maybe play right into your game plan of Diabolos or Phoenix. Alright, next up we've got 1 copy of Cloud of Darkness. When you're into the mid to late game, we've got Daishtola out, a bunch of forwards. Cloud of Darkness can come in and just take out a forward when it enters the field. Okay, Kam'lanaut, able to search out for your copy of Emperor, Shadowlord, or Chaos, depending on what you need. If you get Kam'lanaut out early against a mono element deck and they're not able to deal with it, it can be quite a problem for them. Next up is the Emperor. As I mentioned earlier, Emperor is a category 2 character or forward, and it can be quite a bit of a problem for a lot of decks. The combination of Ishtola and Emperor can be backbreaking to some opponents. Okay, let's go over some of the backups. We got 20 of them. Definitely 3 copies of Sid 2. I mean, obviously this deck runs off of Sid 2 in combination with all those Evokers. So we've got 2 of the Fire ones, so sometimes you want to play a Fire forward, or maybe a Phoenix. You don't have to play a Fire backup in order to do that. You can go ahead and search out a Fire backup with Sid, and after that, pitch it to play the other cards that you need, and maybe later down the line you're able to get maybe a Chaos or Shantotto to get any element that you need. Alright, 2 of the Wind Evoker, 1 of the Earth one who's really only there to play out, well, the Shantottos, 2 of the Water one, so in case you're trying to fix your water element for your backups of forwards, go ahead and do so. 1 of Chaos, great target for Kam'lanaut. 1 Minwu, because there's some matchups where you're facing a Dialuma with some Cactuars, and Minwu is going to put a wrench in the game. 2 of Maria, as I mentioned. Maria is, well, a category 2 character, as well as a rebel. That's not going to count for Firion, but for Guy, that's going to be great. 3 of Thordan VII, being able to be an EX Burst, or to actually just straight up play it out because you have so much card economy with card advantage with the Sid 2 engine as well as Leila Vikings. And after that, you go ahead and play Firion, break your Thordan, and get another card out of it. It's going to be good for you. 3 of Shantotto, just in case you're playing against, well, Scions. Scions is a thing nowadays, so if they play 2 to 3 forwards and they don't have any real good way to recover, as sometimes they go all out with that haste aggro, Shantotto can definitely slow them down and maybe put you back into the game. Alright, let's go over some of the summons. Diabolos, still a force to be reckoned with, so many options. We've gone over this card so many times already. I think you know how well it deals with forwards of cost 5 or above, but also forcing your opponent to reactivating all your forwards or backups can be quite good. If you have 2 Diabolos, you'll be able to just combo one to the next, and also turning an opposing forward into a 1000 power forward, or reducing turning their power into 1000 is going to allow, well, even your Leila and Vikings to be an effective threat. And last but not least, we got Phoenix, who works so well with, well, so many of your forwards. Where you probably don't want to use it on Leon, but Guy, Scott, Viking, Ishtola, Vivi, there's just so many ways to use Phoenix and just play tricks on your opponent. It's just so amazing. 3 of is definitely the right number in my opinion. Being able to play out a huge guy, literally guy, out again after they spent so many resources to get rid of it, and taking out another forward at the same time, for example, is going to be good. Getting a Scott out late game, or if they're trying to Shantotto, go ahead and Phoenix into your Ishtola, pop your Ishtola, take out their forward, and see what happens. So hopefully you like this deck. It was such a treat to see it on display over at the Indianapolis Crystal Cup. Congratulations to that second place finish by Devin. And hopefully you like this deck. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them down below. Thanks again to our sponsor, MagicDeckGames.com, where you can buy or sell, or buy or trade in your cards for, well, maybe other cards or Opus 6 boxes. And go ahead and subscribe if you like the content, and we'll catch you next time.